Miller, editor, writer, Our Press Time.
Our Time Press.
Always kill it, always kill it. Our Times Press. Mary, let's finish up with healthcare. Where were we going then? Where were you going?
Okay, what the Senate is strategizing is a way to highlight
The Senate or Congress?
the Senate.
Uh-huh.
Is the Senate side of Congress
Uh-huh.
is trying to figure out ways to highlight to the best of their ability what Republicans are asking for when they're asking for the repeal of the Health Care Reform Act. In the Health Care Reform Act, children are health care providers are prohibited from denying coverage to children who have pre-existing conditions. Republicans want to repeal that. Healthcare providers are prohibited from enacting lifetime caps or limits on healthcare coverage. Republicans want to eliminate that. The ability for patients to appeal healthcare decisions made by the healthcare companies, Republicans want to repeal that. Small business health insurance tax credits, Republicans want to repeal that. The donut hole for senior citizens who are too poor or too rich to be able to get health care coverage, at a certain point, they are in a donut hole where they have to pay 100% of their health care, of their prescription costs until it reaches a certain limit, and then it's subsidized again. The Health Care Reform Act gets rid of that donut hole. Republicans want to bring back the donut hole when they repeal health care reform. The coverage, a parent's health care coverage, insurance can cover their children up until age 26. Republicans want to repeal that. Healthcare premiums. Healthcare reform, under healthcare reform, insurance companies must make sure that 80% of the premium that a patient pays for healthcare coverage, 80% of that money must go to health care, not to administrative costs, not to multi-million-dollar salaries for the CEOs. It would also increase Medicaid payments for doctors, especially primary care doctors, and Republicans want to repeal that.
So what do the Republicans want? You have an idea.
There's one other thing that I just want to let you know, that what Republicans are asking for when they want to repeal health care law. They want to repeal discrimination against patients based on gender. What this means is if a woman gets pregnant and she goes to her doctor, under Republicans' wishes, the woman would be denied coverage because pregnancy would be considered a pre-existing condition. Under healthcare reform, that woman would be able to maintain her healthcare coverage and have access to medical care during those critical months when she is preparing to give birth, when she's pregnant. Republicans want to repeal that. So, like you asked the question, what do Republicans want?
What do they want?
You know what? We do not know, because Republicans and the Tea Party actually campaigned on jobs, the economy and jobs. They have not
yet. They call this a job killing bill.
I want to say they're crazy.
Because it's actually creating jobs.
It is creating jobs. It's creating jobs all throughout the healthcare industry.
Isn't it part of this bill they want to create to do away with psychiatric health care, if I'm not mistaken?
The payment of it. You can still get it if you can pay for it.
Okay.
You can get the United States has one of the best healthcare infrastructures in the country. The only thing is that there are two ways you can get access to it. The best way is if you have cash and a lot of it.
Of course.
And you can pay for your healthcare services. The other way is if you are so poor that you cannot afford any healthcare coverage, you will be able to get healthcare if you go to the emergency room. But going to the emergency room is, number one, not an efficient way to maintain the overall health of an individual or the populace. And number two, if you just have a system where poor people, uninsured people go to hospitals, what will happen is that, one, everybody else's premiums go up to try to cover the cost of those uninsured people. But two, a lot of hospitals, we had hospitals in New York City go out of business.
Of course.
There are many hospitals in California that have just gone out of business. The reason why is because so many people use the emergency room as healthcare of last resort, and they couldn't pay for it. Who pays for it?
We, the taxpayer, pay for it.
Until we can't pay for it anymore, and then the hospital closes.
And New York
and
has
that's not
several
good.
hospitals closing.
Yes.
Ed Town said 37,500 people in his district won't be covered if this health care is repealed.
And that's only in his district.
It's his district.
Commensurate number would not be able to have health care in Congresswoman Clark's district, too. She also spoke out against the Republican repeal of health care reform, and she voted against it. Even though Ed Towns and Yvette Clarke voted to save health care reform, their votes were not enough. The health care reform did pass. But the repeal of health care reform did pass because of the Republican majority. But the bottom line is that now it goes to the Senate, where the Senate is Democratic majority, barely.
Harry Reid is not going to bring this bill on the floor. It's as simple as that.
He's not, but if he does, he can bring it up in to force Republicans to say, okay, this is part of the health care reform bill that you want to repeal. The part where senior citizens are protected from having that donut hole where they have to pay 100% of their prescription costs. Do you want to vote away that? Do you want to vote away the provision that says children are covered even though they have pre-existing conditions and cannot be denied health care coverage? Do you want to...
So you feel he's going to bring up part of the bill?
Yeah, what the Senate strategy is thinking of doing right now is breaking up the health care reform bill into different sections to bring to the floor in the Senate, and then have everybody in the country see exactly what the Republicans are voting for. Meanwhile, every representative in the House of Representatives has health care of their own.
Of course.
So if they're going to vote to repeal health care reform for everybody else, the first people they should repeal health care reform for is themselves.
See, they have full coverage, complete coverage. So while they tell us we shouldn't have this here, they have it. And everything that they usually speak on, they have it also. So it's just something that we don't pay attention to as voters, as a community, as a country. And even the Republicans, that they get to vote against their own interests, they don't talk about it. They have this coverage too, much better than ours. So that's why single payer should be the only option.
In order for single payer to be an option, this country, I hate to say this, but this country would have to have a uniformly highly educated, highly intelligent populace. And I have to say that there are pockets in this country that are not highly educated nor highly informed. That, as a matter of fact, there's a percentage of this country that is definitely misinformed. There was a survey a few weeks back that found that people who regularly viewed Fox News channel stations, they are the most uninformed people in this country. They're not just uninformed, they are deliberately misinformed.
Misinformed was what was used, the words that was used, because that's what Fox do.
Yeah, it's a propaganda machine. It's not a news organization.
No.
So those people who actually pay attention to Fox, they're being misinformed. But you know what? There's a whole population of people in this country, not just conservative, but also liberal or progressive, who just are not paying attention to anything except American Idol, Dancing with the Stars, MTV, 16 and Pregnant,
They have
BET.
they have to be entertained.
Yeah, soap operas. I know this is travesty because the Jets are playing Sunday for the Super Bowl rights.
Now, you see how I'm looking at you?
Yes, but I'm going to say even the people that are paying attention to the Jets and the playoffs and the run up to the Super Bowl, they are not enough of those people use enough of that enthusiasm and transfer it to political actions that are taking place in this country.
Some parts of our community is considered nerdy to be in politics. You do agree with that?
I don't think it's nerdy.
Of course not. But,
no, for me, I think
it's a way of life.
It's not. It's better than soap operas. It's better than All My Children to me. Politics. Because so many things happen, and the people and what they do and what they get caught in and what they stand for, and it's so exciting and interesting to me and funny at times too. Sometimes tragic, but it's more of a human soap opera. Because this human soap opera of politics impacts what happens on a daily basis for all of us, right down to getting our snow shoveled out of the streets.
And
that's how basic politics is.
And you did see that was a disaster.
That was Bloomberg's disaster.
That was a disaster at the highest level. We're going to end out this segment, go to another one after this break. We'll be back with a brief message.
Yes, we will.
After this message.